I always vowed to raise my kids outside of the city. And I vowed that because I said, look, if I can survive Chicago, I want to give my kids and my family a better life.
You can't go to the park in certain neighborhoods. You can't, it's certain things. You're limited in this city about what you can do with your kids, and it's sad.
Everybody's trying to survive. They're trying to survive through the systemic conditions.
They're worried about their household, and every dollar you make is a dollar that I don't make. Because we keep saying Chicago, but there are two different Chicagos. There's our Chicago, and then there's the Chicago that people see when they go on tour, when they're here as a tourist. There are just certain neighborhoods that we just don't touch and we don't go into. They have someone who can go and put stores in their neighborhoods and give their kids jobs. We don't have that. And the same neighborhoods that we don't touch are the only neighborhoods that the city actually puts money into and puts growth into.
You know what the secret is? Come to them with saying, hey, what can I do for you? Lend yourself without strings. You got to go through their vetting period. Who sent you? And what do you want? I don't want anything. I want what you want. How can I help? And let them put you to work. You got to back it up. And after you put some time in, they might say, you know what, you're all right. I'm going to support you because you have to find your own way. You can't discover who you are and all that you can be if you're sitting on the sidelines.
You try so hard, hoping that one day something gon' change.
I'm so excited to be here talking with Darnell Shields, who is the executive director of Austin Coming Together. Just a little bit of information about Austin Coming Together before we jump into questions with him. So Austin Coming Together was started in 2010. It's a collaborative, it's a membership organization that's dedicated to providing backbone support to more than 50 nonprofits, faith-based institutions, public and private entities as well. And the goal is to bring everyone together to increase education and economic development outcomes in the Austin community in Chicago. And I really love the simplicity of the vision. We will create a thriving Austin community. Boom, like that's it. And I love the approach to doing that work collectively.
I think it's no secret. I grew up in Austin. I'm a lifelong Austinite. So I'm a West Sider through and through. I actually started out in the Austin community in South Austin because Austin is so large. I always joke, I've lived in every zip code in Austin. There's 5 zip codes. As an adult, when I got out of high school, I was set to go to college and ended up becoming a young father. And that really kind of changed the trajectory of my life because I decided to stay home and go into the family business. And I actually went to barber school and became a barber. And I did that for almost 20 years in the community of Austin, taking care of my daughter and so forth and raising my family. And it was just interesting as I found myself at a sort of an impasse rising in that career. I ended up landing a job at Soft Sheen Carson. And through that, when they actually got bought out by L'Oreal and everything kind of closed up, I found myself back at a starting point. I always sought to lend a hand wherever it was needed. And so I ended up wearing several hats in terms of different positions. I basically, I guess the board said, hey, he's had every position, so let's try him out. and they literally, I became the executive director in 2017. And it was really, the notion was that I was from the community. I clearly had a passion for the community and I knew all the partners. I knew the landscape. I knew the infrastructure because I had been here and helped to build it. And so, they felt like this was tailor-made for me to step into that role. And they were willing to take that, risk and go kind of blindly and to see what we would, what I'd be capable of. And so I always thank them for that. I'm often reminded of my mother when I think about just this mode that I have. Growing up with a entrepreneur, especially a hairstylist, because she was a hairstylist, but she was also a salon owner, and she was an artist. And so this woman, she was so fearless when it came to rising to the call to do pretty much anything. The only thing she was shy about was speaking, public speaking. And so that was our kind of relationship. She envied that I was not afraid to get in front of people and speak. And so she literally taught me everything she knew so that I could be her crutch when it came time to speak. But she really instilled in me, you know, this no fear, you can do anything attitude. Thrive 2025 is our 10-year strategy to basically collectively leverage our member base to collectively achieve those 4 impact goals: quality early learning, living wage careers, neighborhood safety, and stabilizing the housing market. And it's really based on community well-being indicators. And the way we look at it is it's easy to track, it's easy to measure because you can literally use census data to do it. But in terms of quality early learning, it is, you know, 3rd grade reading scores. Are they meeting or exceeding 3rd grade? I mean, if the children aren't well, then your community's not well, right? And then same thing with living wage careers. You know, are the folks that live in the community living or moving to a point where they are living above the federal poverty line? That's really what that's about. In neighborhood safety, are we decreasing the rate of violent crime, right? Are all of our collective efforts moving the needle on that? And then lastly, really looking at in terms of the stabilizing the housing market is making sure that the median housing value can go up to a level consistently across the community. Because the interesting thing about Austin is it's such a large community that you literally can go several blocks and you will think you're in another community. And with that, the housing values will sporadically change. And so that type of inconsistency, it really creates poverty in different pockets. Even though you live in the same community, have the same lot size, same style of house, but yet your house is worth $100,000 less than somebody else in the other zip code in Austin because of the way values spread out. So that individuals that have barriers that are seeking to get resources to move past those, that they don't run into obstacle and are turned away when they go to one organization that may not necessarily provide what they need beyond the resource that they came there for. So if they go to a workforce agency and they need housing, we don't want them to be turned away because they need housing and they're a workforce agency. So through partnership, you can make sure that anytime you interact with someone, you can connect them to the resource that they need. And then secondly, we continuously engage the community. That's a two-way street. We're really making sure that we stay engaged with the residents of the community so that we can hear from them regularly. Is this working? What do you need? Are there gaps? So that we can inform all those service providers and the investors, folks that really want to support philanthropy, invest in community. Are they investing in the right things? Are we building the right strategies, right? And then also have that connection to them to make sure that they're knowing about all the different great things that's in their community on a regular basis. And then thirdly, really looking at building the community's capacity to organize itself, to create plans for partnership and investment that act as a blueprint to really direct that, because that's how the quality of life plan came about. It's really synthesizing their voice to make sure that their issues, their actions, their strategies is what's at the top and what everybody is taking note to when they start to devise how they're going to support this community. And then lastly, building the community's capacity for policy change. Because even after you organize everybody, after you coordinate everything, you attract the resources, we've engaged with everyone, there's still those structural barriers in terms of policy and practices and legislation that will act as impediments for us moving forward and being successful.
there are 7 issue areas. And those issue areas each have task forces. The issue areas are housing, public safety, education, economic development, youth empowerment, community narrative, and civic engagement.
Over the course of 24 months, that's how we landed on such a massive document. To have 7 issue areas and 84 actions across 23 strategies. Austin is huge because there was a lot of tension about, should we only do part of the community? We said we got to do it all. And so that's how we ended up with such a massive plan, but it was rightfully so because it has consistently been a relationship builder and a uniter. And the model of quality of life planning was actually formalized by an organization called LISC. They're the Local Initiative Support Corporation. But basically a quality of life plan is a process to engage community around identifying the issues that they believe act as impediments to their success, to really inform those solutions that will best position organizations that have capacity, commitment, and competency to implement those actions, and investors and really act as a blueprint for investment. And that's the beauty of doing a quality of life plan, because you can literally get everybody's interests on the board and you can look at where the intersections, you can work together to find those intersections so that now you can have a cohesive quilt. Nobody will walk away and feel like they weren't heard. One, I had to come to terms with, my role in the larger scheme of the ecosystem, and not be disillusioned in any way about it. I think if you allow yourself to lose sight of that, that's where you tend to get disenchanted, depending on how things play out. Because if you're in a role like mine, where you're an intermediary, where you're a connector, right, you may not necessarily be as involved in the direct outcome. But if that's what you're seeking, if that's what you're waiting on, and that means the most to you, then you'll miss the achievement that you made. You'll totally overlook the achievement that you made, that you should be celebrating, which was you made the connection. I think it's the age-old adage of, stronger together. Like you just can't do as much as you can do when it's more of you. And that's literally the sense that that I've learned to appreciate from doing this work. I really have centered on, like, I know a lot of the things that we're looking to do within the time frame that we want to do them. There's no way you'll be able to approach that by yourself. No one organization can meet the needs of everybody in every way. It's an interesting journey for me, because as I continue to have this responsibility to be that person, it is always a daily battle for me internally. And so it's like, if I'm doing a good job, that means I'm winning that day. If I'm not, then I'm losing my way, and I got to get back centered. But every day it's a journey. So it doesn't just come naturally. It's commitment to be more than and go and do beyond yourself, and challenge yourself to be more than who you are or what you thought you were. All of these developments are really starting to take precedence in the community now. It was so interesting. They were all concepts at one point. It seemed like, I remember even going through the quality of life plan, where we actually had some sessions where we explored what would physical redevelopment of the community look like with architects. And the community residents did workshops with architects to actually do that, which was so cool. And the redevelopment of Emmett School was actually one of the subjects of that workshop. And so to see this project go from being this abandoned school that a community organization like Westside Health Authority was able to acquire, to now putting it forth in the quality of life planning process for community residents to define what it would become in their conceptualization of how they want to re-envision their physical makeup of their community in a way that best serves them, to now being a finalist for a Chicago Prize for the actual concept to redevelop it based off of what those community members said they wanted. And to fast forward to today, where we're literally in partnership, also coming together in partnership with Westside Health Authority to bring the Aspire Center to life, where we're applying for a rezoning of the school area, because in order to actually have it serve as a workforce center and a retail center, which was the vision for it, and a business hub was the vision for this site, we had to engage the city of Chicago in order to change the zoning status from an RT4, which is residential, which most schools are assigned, to a B3, which is like all of the other businesses, commercial businesses along Madison and along Central. And so that's the process that we're in right now. We've actually moved into finalizing our construction plans for the redevelopment. So we have the final designs of what this center is going to look like on the first and second floor of the redevelopment and the plaza area that it will have. So it's really going to beautify that intersection of Central and Madison. Like, that intersection is not going to look the same. It's going to be, it'll never be the same, because it's going to become a beacon of light in this area. One leader, Helen Slade, she's the executive director of Territory, which is a nonprofit that uses architecture to engage young people in the process of redeveloping their community, right? And something she said in terms of development and all of the economic development things with these buildings, she said, but this redevelopment of the area, once it happens, right, it literally will tie to and start to increase public safety. Because one of the things that I think, you know, is just very prevalent with folks is it's a mental and emotional condition where whatever you see, you become whatever you see. You behave based off of what you see. And so if all you see is desolation, devastation, guess what? You feel devastated. You feel desolate. So here's a community that where you look around, abandoned schools, vacant lots, trash on the ground, all of this stuff, right? And then you wonder why this is the mode within the community. But what if we start to redevelop those schools into functional centers that look really pristine and beautiful and free from trash and so forth? You don't think the hearts and minds of people are going to change? Austin, 20 years from now, this community, you know what? It looks through and through, no matter what part of the community you're in, it looks like the best area. Like, we have some areas that are, you know, coined as better than others. But I believe that in 20 years, you won't be able to tell the difference. You won't be able to tell the difference. And I believe that the Austin community is going to be the pride of Chicago. It is going to be the attraction. People gonna come to this city saying, I gotta go to the Austin area. That's what we get. Yeah, we're gonna stay over here, but when are we going to the Austin area? Like they do when they go to Atlanta, they want to go to Buckhead, all these other things. It's gonna be the destination. So here's the scientific version of what makes me a badass. If there's no way to do it, I'm gonna find one. we find a way out of no way.
Yeah.